Hey groupers, Pastor Marshall here with Max for our small group lesson. Well, Max was persecuted by the Grinch. I wonder, do you believe that you have ever truly been persecuted for your faith in Jesus Christ? Do you believe that you have ever been persecuted because of Jesus? And if so, would you tell the story? And let's just get everybody talking that way. That's our icebreaker for today. And then, what is the primary reason that the world hated? That's what Jesus says here in this first part of our passage. What is the primary reason that the world hated or still does hate Jesus? And what is the primary reason that we will be hated? Jesus says that we will be hated. What is the primary reason that we will be hated? And if we're not hated, what does that probably mean? A little bit of boring history because I like it. There's a Roman historian that is from the first century. His name is Tacitus. He writes that they were hated for their crimes, whom the mob called Christians. And he has a contemporary, Sunoius, I don't know how to say his name. He also writes about Christians. He says, a race of men who belong to a new and evil superstition. We begin to see how the church was viewed very early on, how the church was hated. And so that still exists today. Jesus says it still exists today. What do you think it means to belong to the world? And what do you, sorry, let me say that differently. What do you think it means to not belong to the world? What does it mean to be out of the world? This is the statement that Jesus makes here. Jesus repeats the statement that he made in John 13:16 when he's washing the disciples' feet in verse 20. What did he mean in John 13? What does he mean now in John 15? Why is the world, next question, why is the world accountable for their sins according to verse 22? Make sure that you add verse 26 and make sure that you look at chapter 16 verses 7 through 11 and include that in the discussion. Why is the world accountable for their sins? And what do you make of Jesus' statement in verse 25 when he quotes Psalm 69? Does the world really hate Jesus without reason? What reasons would the world give if it was asked why it hated Jesus? And are these real reasons or are they fake, false reasons? What do you make of this statement that the world will hate Jesus without reason? How do you apply that to Jesus' life when he's crucified? And how do you apply it to how the world views him today? And then, what does Jesus say will happen to the disciples specifically? Kind of at the beginning of chapter 16, first few verses. What does he say that will happen to them specifically? And what types of persecutions can we expect? Maybe these are some of the things that you shared in the icebreaker, but what are some of the persecutions that we can expect today as Christ followers? And then finally, I just always like to remind us of the application that I hope that you made on Sunday morning when we were going through this as a church. And so, what do we do if we are persecuted? And maybe you remember I just shared these 4 things, and I imagine that one of them was somewhere that you could just hang your hat on Sunday morning. And so we just want to talk about that. What do we do when we're persecuted? Well, we remind ourselves that Jesus was too. We remind ourselves that we have a reward. We remind ourselves that persecution is going to build Christian character, and we remind ourselves that when we are being persecuted, to love and to bear fruit. How are you doing on those 4 things? Well, I hope that you have a meaningful discussion, and I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. This coming Sunday is going to be Eric King, and he's going to preach to us about John 17 and Jesus' high priestly prayer. God bless.